Hi, all. Welcome to Diversified Finance. My name is Lakal, and today I'm going to talk about a very important topic, and it's about investing money. So, let's take a look at our lifestyle, say from start to end, right? From our birth uh, to until we die, right? So, until we get to like 5 years old, we probably will be with our parents. So even if you're maybe 3 years old, your parents would probably send you like for daycare. So we actually will start studying since we are like 2.5 to 3 years old. So since then we'll probably start our school when we are at 5 years, around 5 years old, and then we'll probably do our high school till 18 years old. So that we'll do that much of studying uh, until we are out of our school, and then most of us will do higher studies. So for example, a degree at a university, and it'll probably be finished and will be out uh, right around 23 to 24 years old. So let's say like by 25, so we'll probably start studying when we are like 3 years old, and then we study till uh, we are 25 years old or 24. So roughly, let's say we study 20 years. So 20 years we've been studying, and then we'll start looking for a job, right? So if you think about it, like studying is very important, right? That will help you to land on a job. And why a job is important? As human beings, we have our needs, wants, and then you probably need like a shelter to live in. You need need to buy clothes. If you live in a house, you need to buy a house, and then if you want to maintain a house, you need to pay your bills, council rates, electricity bill, gas, likewise. So these are obvious expenses as a human being, right? So until we are say 2025, we probably live with our parents, so we don't need to worry too much about it, right? But once we get married, or if we move out, if when we are like 25 years old, then that's when we start thinking about how we're going to pay our rent, so, and all the other expenses, right? So that's why so getting a job is important, so you will be able to maintain average lifestyle, right? So you don't need to uh, depend on your parents, do not depend on your parents, and you don't need to stay with your parents until you are 35 or like 40 years old or so. So in if you think about that, so studying, if you focus on that, studying is very important. So that will help you to help you to get a job, and that when you make an income, when you get paid from your job, you can use that money to maintain your lifestyle. But the problem, here's where the problem is, normally, say you got married when you're like 25 or 26 years old. The problem is, as soon as we get married, we have this idea in our society, we have to buy a house, right? We have to buy a car, and because you're married, they you tend to think that you are settled now, your wife is working, you have got a permanent job, your wife is working, so everything's fine. So uh, you have that mentality. I mean, just because everyone's doing it, right? And most of us, that's what we do, and then we tend to look at them and then think, okay, because most of people are doing it, we have to do it. But that's not always the case, right? That's exactly why most people are getting into debt, right? So if, for example, an average house in Sydney or in Australia, it's going to cost you probably 600,000 700,000, or maybe, I mean, it has come down a bit, but back in the day it used to be closer to 1 million, right? So we have that mentality, just because everybody's got a house, that we have to borrow six seven $800,000, and we have to have the same lifestyle that most of others people have. But that's not the case. We don't need to do that. I mean, it's a matter of what you want and what you need, right? So if someone says I need something, then that could be a necessity, right? Like you need a shelter, you need a roof over your head, and that's very important, like that you something have to have. But if someone says I need a house, I need to buy this house with a swimming pool, with like 5 bedroom, like double garage in a really good suburb, that's like you are just like pushing yourself a bit too much, right? You might not need that, like it's that something that in your head that you think you want it, maybe because everyone else got it, right? But the problem is, in order to do that, we have to borrow so much of money. And the worst thing is, like when we borrow money, we have that mentality, okay, we borrowed money for the next 30 years, so we don't need to pay down our debt, like sooner, like let us work till we get to 65, 70, and it'll be paid off. But the problem is, like within this period, right? If within this period, if you add all your interest that you paid for the bank, right, that amount will be as same as how much you spend to buy your house. So you end up paying double the amount of the amount of the value of your house, like end of the period, end of 30 years or so. So the problem with this is, like so when you borrow that kind of money, you have to pay probably 30 to 40% of your salary. So 30 to 40% of your salary goes goes towards your mortgage, right? So you end up having another 70%, and then you have other expenses, right? If you have a car, you have to maintain your car. There's the cost. You have to for petrol. You have to pay for. There's a cost, like expenses like for transportation, and then you have electricity bills, and then you have gas, registration for your car, and like if you have kids, like there's like things you have to buy things for your kids, like that's expensive. So there are so many other expenses, like and what we realize, like when we get to our 30s or mid 30s, it it seems as if, like we just earn money, and the next thing you just spend it straight away, right? And you earn $1,000, say you earn $5,000 a month, and next thing end of the month, like we've spent like 4,900. So we end up having only $100, end up having $100 sitting on your account. And who knows, like if something comes up, like say if you want to go out, like with your friends, like for a holiday or something, or for a couple of days, like a party or something, you might end up spending that as well. And then end of the month, literally, if you look at your account, like if you look at your income and expenses, it's exactly the same, so you end up having nothing. So this is where investing is very important. So the first thing we got to do is, when you borrow money, we need to make sure that our debt is manageable, right? So if you borrow too much of money, especially these days, like who knows if the bank's going to increase interest rates, right? Your repayments could get a little bit bigger, right? Maybe you've been paying, say, 3,000 a month. If the banks increase interest rates, like because we are relying so much on banks, like when it comes to our houses. So if that's the case, uh, you might feel as if, like it doesn't matter how much we make, like it doesn't really matter, because we end up spending it straight away, right? So that's why investing is important, because when we borrow money, we have to make sure that the debt is manageable, right? So if you want an average salary, we need to make sure that we pay only up to 20 or 10 to 15. So 10 to 20, like of our salary goes to our mortgage, no more than that. If it's 15, it's even better. So if say if someone tells me, okay, we cannot buy an average house for that much of that kind of a repayment, then simply you can't afford it, right? So just because everyone's doing it, we don't need to do that. So if you thinking of going for a house, and if it feel like, if I do that, 30 to 40 of my my salary goes to repayment, you would rather live in a unit, right? You can buy a unit for maybe $300,000 to $400,000, right? You can stay in there for some time. Like this is not forever, but this is for some time, and it will give you So say for example, if you stay in a unit, like if you spend only, your debt is only around $300,000 to $400,000, right, which is very manageable, right? If that's the case, uh, you would only pay maybe 10 to 15% of your salary, like 20% of your salary goes to your repayments. So meaning, like end of every month you end up having more money in your account, and that you can save more money because you pay less for your repayments. So um, it's simply one thing leads to other, right? Leads to the other. So you borrow less money. Because you borrow less money, and you need to, the other important thing is your lifestyle, right? When you spend money, say for example, if you want to buy a shirt, like a t-shirt, right? There are shirts that you can buy for $5, and there are shirts that you can spend maybe $500, right? Right. If it's a special occasion, I understand, like you probably want to spend more money. But if it's like if you want to go to a party, like and if you want to buy a new shirt, I mean, you have a choice of like $5 to like $100 to $200. You can spend $200 on a shirt. It could be a branded one, like so because it's expensive, but most of the branded ones are expensive. But still, you can buy like a nice shirt, like for a like for an evening party or something, for $10 or for $20. So if you have that kind of a mentality, right? I mean, if you have that mentality, okay, I mean, because it does the same job, right? You just spend $20 on a shirt, and then you can spend $100 on a shirt, but it does the same thing, right? You just cover your skin, right? So but the problem is, like people tend to think more money I spend, like on a branded clothes, uh, that when people look at you, like you tend to think, oh, that you kind of feel rich, like, but it's short term, right? Not gonna last for long. But if you maintain that kind of lifestyle, so every time you want to buy something, like go for the cheapest, right? What's the big deal, right? And no need to worry about it. But if it's a special occasion, I do understand, like maybe a special occasion, you need to feel good, like when you in that occasion, like of course, like you can spend a little bit extra money on that, and you like no need to worry too much about it. But in normal life, like what I suggest, like it's better for you to spend money on things you need. So if you maintain that kind of lifestyle, and if you haven't borrowed too much money, right, then you have the opportunity to save a lot of money at the end of the month. So you do your income, you have your income here, you have your expenses here. Given that you maintain like a average lifestyle, like you don't waste money on things that you don't need, right? If you have that kind of mentality, say you earn $5,000 a month, and given that you have less debt, and you are pretty good with money, right? Your expenses would be $3,000. So you earn 5,000, you spend 3,000, and you have a clean cut of $5,000 that you can save every month. Say for example, you earn 5,000 and you spend 4,000. So every month you can save $1,000 a week. Right? This is where it starts. And then if you can earn $1,000 a week, if you can save $1,000 a month, sorry, then you can project that for the next 5 years, next 3 to 4 years or so. So the meaning, every year you can save 12,000 a month, right? So 2 years you probably be able to save $25,000. So this is where it starts. And then if you have that much of money set aside, right, that's when that will help you to, like, because you have a pretty good chunk of money, like to invest. That's when you start thinking about investing money. Why you even invest? Because um, I already explained about what active income and passive income is. Active income is like you have to the job that we do. So passive income is you invest on some asset, like and you get a dividend every month, or you invest money, say you buy a property, right, and you get passive income from it, and you don't need to work. So this passive income is really important. So to generate passive income, you need to start investing. That's why investing is really important. So when you have passive income, when you have enough money, if you keep on doing for like 10, like 5 to 10 years, or maybe 10 to 15 years or so, there'll be a day that you don't need to work till you get to like your 70s, right? You might be able to retire when you're 40 or 35 or maybe even 50, right? And then after that you can enjoy your life, right? So that's why investing is important. So what we got to do, like we have to cut down on our expenses, right? And we need to have a lifestyle where you don't spend too much money, you don't waste your money, right? And then if that's the case, you do a budget, and then you have a look what's your income and all your expenses are, and you minus expenses from your income, and then you know how much you can save every month. And you do that for like 10 or 20 years or so, and then you have really, like a pretty good chunk of money where you can invest. So along the way, like every year, like say if you save $1,000 a year, end of the year you have 12,000. You just have a look at all the assets, like it could be shares, it could be gold and silver, it could be Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, it could be government bonds, or it could be investing in property. So you can go through all of these assets and have a look and say, okay, which you have to pick, like which assets are at a not at a peak at the moment. Say for example, share markets, say Dow Jones at a peak at the moment, so you don't want to spend uh, on the share market at the moment. So but if you think about gold, silver, Bitcoin, they are really cheap. So this is not like a get rich quick kind of like a campaign, like you can, where you invest money and next few weeks after, like you got a million. No, that's not going to happen like that. This is long term. So you gradually, like you get to your targets, right? It might take 5 years, it could be 10, it could take 10 years. But if you don't do it now, when you get to your 30s or 40s, then you look back and you think, okay, I'm 40 years old now, what have I done? Like I got a massive debt, I got a massive house. Yes, I have a massive house, but still I have a massive debt, like to be repaid. So meaning, then you realize, okay, looks like I have to work till I get to my 70s, like until before I pay off my debt. So if you have enough, so if you follow this, and if you have enough passive income, you don't need to work full time, right? You can just work part time, and your wife work part time. And when that happens, you have so much of time in your hands, and then you can do more research on investing. You have because think about like going to work, right? You get up like 6-7 o'clock in the morning, and you get ready, and 5 to 6 days a week, like you spend a couple of hours like on traffic to get to work, and then on your way back, and you spend another 1.5 hours like in traffic, and then you get back home. It's like 7 to 7, right? It's like you our lives, like a normal average person spend about 12 to 13 hours a day, like to go to work and work 8 to 9 hours. So if you work extra, it could be 13 hours a day. So what happens, like when you get stuck in here, you don't have much time in your hands, right? So if you borrow less money, and if you maintain um, average lifestyle, meaning you're not gonna spend too much money, or you're not gonna waste too much money on it, then you can invest, right? So you make sure you do that first, borrow less, spend, you don't waste money, and you do a budget and start saving money, and you use that saved money to invest, and use those investment to, like generate passive income for you. So if you keep, this is for long term. I'm talking about 10 to 15 to 20 years. If you follow this for a long term, there'll be a day, like you have your income generate enough passive income that you can work part time, right? And then things will be a lot easier for you, like you don't need to worry about it. You won't be stressed, like then you have more time to, like relax. So yeah, so this is what I want to talk about. It's a very important thing, like investing is a very important. uh, so I think that's it for today. So thanks for your time. I'll talk to you in the next video. See ya.